Working on a laptop close to the end of a job I've been doing since 10:30. I don't believe that it's frozen again. The system has gone down, oh, down, oh, down, oh. I don't believe that it's frozen again. The system has gone down, oh. So I took it down to the help desk guy. I said, make it better or I'm gonna cry. He said, I'm sorry, your computer has died. The data can no longer be found, oh, found, oh, found, oh. He said, I'm sorry, your computer has died. The data can no longer be found, oh. To the roof of the laptop I did go, over to the edge and I gave it a throw, and when it arrived 7 stories below, it really made a mighty fine sound, oh, sound, oh, sound, oh. When it arrived 7 stories below, it really made a mighty fine sound, oh. Well, that didn't do enough to ease my pain, so I went down to Dallas and I got on a plane, saying this is all Billy Gates' fault. I'm gonna be tracking them down, oh, down, oh, down, oh. This is all Billy Gates' fault. I'm gonna be tracking them down, oh. Boom chicka 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 boom. Touchdown in Seattle and I got off the plane. Hit Starbucks to get out of the rain. Paid all of my dough for them a Joe with a foam and I seen him in brown, oh, brown, oh, brown, oh. All of my dough for them a Joe with a foam and I seen him in brown, oh. When the Gates found out about my plan, he packed up a bag, turned tail and ran. Megaloman took it out on a lamb and hid way underground, oh, ground, oh. Ground, oh, Megaloman took it out on a lamb and hid way underground, oh. Well, the Gate's been running ever since that day. Thinks he can hide, but he can't get away. When I find his kid is skinny behind, he gonna kick it all over this town, oh, town, oh, town, oh. When I find his little skinny behind, he gonna kick it all over this town, oh. That's a good one. That's a good one. God, I love Da Vinci's Notebook. God, I love Da Vinci's Notebook. Tons of good stuff there. Tons of good stuff there. So how you doing? Shooting stars are beautiful and evocative of water dripping across the sky. Saw probably the most beautiful shooting star I've ever seen before. And it did exactly look like a droplet, crystal clear and pure white, dripping down the tapestry of the sky. Gorgeous. You ever clean and organize your room and find out you can suddenly breathe better? It can't not just be me. I'm sure that's lots of you. I'm sure that's lots of people out there throughout history and time. Back till time immemorial. Feng shuiing your cave. In the metropolis of Pompeii. I tell you, this crackhead season's looking like a doozy. I bet the year you bring home a trophy buck. But for real, like, there's crackheads all over the place out there. They just popped up overnight, and it's just like, where did you come from? Like, really, like, seriously, what the heck's going on? I mean, I grew up with, like, way more crackheads than like, the amount that I've seen today, but, like, I've seen more crackheads today than I have for the last, like, 2 years. It's wild, man. It's wild. Oh, I did drive around a little bit more. Like, there's this crackhead that my mom and I went down to her job and did some stuff that she needed to do. And on the way to go get some food and then go back home afterwards, she was driving and, like, there was this crackhead walking up the street, and then the crackhead, like, gave her plenty of room, right? Excuse me, she gave the crackhead plenty of room, and, like, he was, like, yelling at my mom, like, after she passed him, like, so I inch in just a little bit, because I'm, like, way over on the far edge, like, right next to my tires are right next to the reflectors, because naturally, you know, I'm not gonna get super close to the guy. My mom didn't get super close to the guy, but she was closer to the center, and that pissed him off. So I, like, swerved in, and he was whipping around from looking at my mom. He saw me coming, like, right at him around a curve. And I look back in my mirror afterwards, I see him just yelling at me. Just like, hey, man, you know, I genuinely do think that is your American duty to screw with crackheads in a peaceful and reasonable manner. It is your American duty to do this. Don't let anybody convince you otherwise. Like, for real. I'm like, this isn't from Kiwi Farms. This is something I grew up with as a Floridian, specifically as a Floridian, not as a North Carolina guy. This is not something I would have learned in North Carolina, but like in Florida, it is your duty to mess with crackheads enough that they're off point. Because there's nothing worse, my friends, than an on point crackhead. Nothing worse. Nothing worse. A somewhat on point crackhead stole my bike once, and I beat the crap out of him and ended up in jail over it. We ended up talking it out later, and nobody hates each other or nothing, but like, there's nothing worse than an on-point crackhead, because crackheads got super strength, and you do not want them to have a cool and level head with that super strength, right? I don't know, just a thought. Just a thought. Here's a thought. A flag is an idol that dare not touch the ground, or it loses meaning. A rosary. Preferred not to touch the ground, it can touch dirt. It can be dropped. It only aligns it more with the pains Christ sank to in his love for us. And I think that is an incredible thing, and I think that effectively erases a lot of the idolatry of trinkets associated with Christianity. Did you know Islam, Sunni Islam, is an inherently iconoclastic thing? That is the exact reason why ISIS blows up, ancient Buddhist monuments and stuff. That's the exact reason why they cover their women up completely to not showcase the art of God. That's why in the Middle East, a lot of flags are just like green or black, like just straight up with nothing on them. They got the Shahada on the modern Saudi Arabian flag. But if you go back, the flag of Oman was just solid red, nothing else. Is that still the flag of Oman to this day? I can't quite remember. But like, it's because they're iconoclast. And Oman is complicated. They're like a body, right? But Sunni Islam is iconoclast. And Islam has a big discussion on iconoclasm inherent in its religion. And personally, I think iconoclasm is something that comes from asceticism. So you have Hindu asceticism, you have Buddhist asceticism. I've discussed this in Zen before. Zen, Zazen, is the ability to sit and stare at a wall, like literally sitting right next to a wall. Sitting in the corner as a punishment as a kid is Zazen, right? Staring right at the wall and clearing your mind because there's no other stimulus. That is a part and portion of why it is done in Islam, but I also genuinely believe that there is a devious metric at play here that is meant to make people more servile. And that is exactly the problem with the iconoclastic Dutch. And that is the exact problem with like Londoners and that, culture shared between Amsterdam and London of the Dutch coast and the southern English coast that did not manage to actually make its way all the way up into America, but still is indulged by some sects of American Christianity to this day. Scotch Ireland, excuse me. And then, transport. Scotch Ireland had a complex form of Christianity that was more based on not being Catholic than anything else. And in that, that's a lot of what the iconoclasm in the Christian world was about. It was about not being Catholic. But also, I genuinely do believe that there's a devious, devilish, monstrous influence in forcing people to give up the things that are inspirational and beautiful, to drop and let die the skills built up over generation after generation after generation after generation after generation of their ancestors, and to just drop the tools and let the skills atrophy. There's something very, very, very evil about that, and one might potentially trace it back to a certain specific group that alchemically dissolves everything around while maintaining certain as above, so below, green tablet hermeneutic, esoteric, theosophical, occultic sort of practices, which is, in definition, Talmudism, right? And you know where the Talmud was developed? 4th century AD, Babylon, Mesopotamia. You know, I think with the Shia is the Shia Muslims seem to be, because I know there's some Shia in Africa and stuff like that, but the Shia Muslims seem to be more Persian. It seems to be that Shia Islam is a syncretism between Persia and Arabic Islam, right? Sunni Arabic Islam is, I think this holds over a lot of ascetic practices from their pre-Islamic desert religions, naturally going out into the desert. That is a very iconoclastic thing. You learn to give up everything, including water, so that you can experience a fuller connection to the divine. And that's the whole point of it, but it can also naturally backfire horrendously. It really, 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 really can. And the biggest one is what I just said, is the fact that you let your skills, that your ancestors, every generation, they were able to add something. You know, maybe some horrible thing happened, a whole workshop was burned down. Oh, that took us back. But we kept growing and kept growing and kept growing. And all of a sudden, we were convinced, out of spite towards the Catholic Church, to just give up everything that was built by our ancestors. That is bad. And if anybody pointing the whole finger at Christianity in general must know that Catholicism has always strived very, very hard to maintain the truths in other religions like paganism. If it's true, they will maintain it. They will carry it forth. That's why you have so many particular dialectical, vernacular behaviors of Catholicism in this area, and that area, and this area, and that area. But as long as everybody says Latin, the core of the thing, the metal core of the thing, stays solid, and it stays on tracks. All right. It's wild how you read that in the 1800s, things got really, really lazy and lame. And the sort of people that would have turned the 1700s from struggle to celebration were basically killed. And it boils down to, before cameras, people could just lie. It was about building a community that didn't accept lies, with a certain level of scientific process and with a certain level of defensiveness, and not wanting to lie. Raising their children to not want to lie. That's a big thing. And after Christendom started to break apart, there was a sweet spot malicious figures could exploit. This is the same time when Freemasonry was ascended. But it always seems to be that a century of Masonic behavior, inventing homunculi, redefining God in the vernacular, cooing leadership, always leads inevitably to a century of spiritually weak people. Capitalism versus socialism? Who told you you have to pick between subverting your cultural process to either international capitalism or state socialism, labor? The culture and the people it shapes should define the labor. Simple as. It's something to chew on, you know. It's just something to chew on. Our culture is in capitalism, right? Our culture is derived of one of like 6 or 7 different. You got Irish, Scottish, English, French, German, West African, like Slavic, I guess. It's kind of hard to define exactly, because we do have a lot of people from the Balkans. We do have a lot of people of Russian descent and Ukrainian descent. I myself, just growing up, knew a Russian, 2 Ukrainians. You know, that is a big portion of our culture, actually. That's what American culture is, and it really screws some people's heads up trying to understand that it is a syncretism between 7 different cultures or more, and not one culture that is Americanism. And I personally don't, I try very hard to not despise the people that say, Irish Americans, what? You're American. You're not Irish. You must understand that if somebody's ancestors lived in the place for 10,000 years, that is weighted on a scale to determine who and what they are to the 300 to 500 years that they've sat on in the other continent. It is really stupid to think that, and I struggle not to hate those people, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to be defensive towards culture. They're trying to contain contiguous culture, but at the end of the day, that's not what keeps a culture alive. What keeps a culture alive is recognizing what things like iconoclasm is, who is ultimately subverting various cultures, getting in there, bribing people, undermining everything from the bottom up. That is what contains a culture, not virtue signaling. All right. So, the Catholic Church is supposed to be more clinical than cordial. Chiefs among the leadership are called doctors of the Church, since they help heal our falling species. Not best friend, boss, buddy, boy, so-and-so. Doctor. Which is still one of the highest positions, honorifics, that one could possess. I think the younger generation will benefit greatly from the acceptance that a product does not have to be sterile to be clean, nor does something need to be benign paste to differentiate it from the genuinely toxic, right? And I think a lot of younger people, they get that. That makes sense. They've seen Gen X, older millennials, growing up in the 90s, coming of age as the Twin Towers were exploding, just steeped in hatred, anger, pain, violence, aggressiveness, and like they're deaf, their nerves are rattled, they're blind, like literally physically blind, physically deaf, physically nerve dead. And I think a lot of the younger people, they get that. However, you still see these apartment buildings popping up, and then you see all these freaks popping up everywhere afterwards. You know, that's a tale as old as modern time, I assume. Sucks to see, but hey, what are you gonna do about it? Just try and help rise that tide, you know what I'm saying? And then maybe they'll, you know, figure something out. We all gotta figure something out, right? Everybody needs to learn the term. Oh, wait a minute. Got the wrong notes up here. All right. I hope all the millennials that ended up on r/child-free using vernacular like crotch spawn and unalive win a free ticket to South Sudan and a lifetime supply of COVID booster shots. And I apologize on behalf of those people. Millennials are, in general, much nicer and less psychotic, and usually younger people have a little bit more introspection because of the internet attaching so many people. Basically everybody's friend group, unless they're reclusive, is bigger than the amount of people that their brain can store in memory. Ergo, you're always going to forget about somebody. Ergo, there's always something lurking that can check you if you're misbehaving, if you get out of line. You know, you may think this is the parameter, but there's always something somewhere that will check you, keep you in line. This is, in a way, what people want to pretend that the Kiwi Farms is. But at the end of the day, I really, really gotta say, like, a lot of what I see on Kiwi Farms is people indulging their very childish and immature behaviors. Their parasocial need to attach themselves to something of attention and something of essential worth. It's crazy to think that Christian is an insanely valuable individual, but he is. And it's crazy to think that somebody like Cyrax is worth more than somebody like, oh, I don't know, Music Biz Marty. But it's true. And that's exactly why Music Biz Marty goes and he tries to attach himself to that. It's parasocial behavior. It is the exact same behavior where this term came from of a movie star, a leader of a fan club, trying as hard as they possibly can to attach themselves to a movie star. That's what parasocial means. And on Kiwi Farms, I see a ton of parasocial behavior of people attaching themselves to people that get millions of people paying attention to them for their eccentric behaviors. And there's a stark difference between the intelligent people that I always got along with and I love and respect on Kiwi Farms, who give very good commentary, and the people that I was getting in fights with on Kiwi Farms, which is the people that legitimately think that talking directly to lolcows or whoever is not paying attention to them is an appropriate way of posting on the website. They are so physically, individually, emotionally invested in their own personal interaction, the emotions that they get with interacting with something that is not in their life in any way, shape, and form. And I think Kiwi Farms is kind of bad in that manner, because you see on a lot of other social media websites, people are essentially moderated out of communities that they don't belong. So on Facebook, for instance, which is one of the best for work, people who want to work together, people who want to learn a new hobby, a new talent, a new skill. If you want advice, life advice, if you're stupid and you need life advice, go to Reddit. Twitter was never good for anything. But Facebook is where you genuinely will get a community of people in a hobby. And if a community has somebody going in there who is genuinely just trying to mess with people instead of to, I don't know, say grow bromeliads or something, then they'll get moderated out of the community. That doesn't happen as much on Kiwi Farms. In fact, it's kind of encouraged for the people that do that, magnetize towards the website and become... They call themselves the internet hate machine, but in my opinion, it really is too childish to be considered something like hate. It is a parasocial attachment to people. And, I even saw people there's somebody who was attached to me. Everywhere I went, he was there. Everything that I did, he was paying attention to. And it's just bro, you want to be friends or something? Because you are investing way too much time into me, man. It's not going to pay off for your life. And I think that last point, the fact that it doesn't pay off in somebody's life if they're just masturbatorily going through their own emotions right there in the moment, instead of trying to observe the broad spectrum issues, the things that correspond with things over here and over there and throughout time and history. Instead, they're just some people do talk like they're Redditors on Kiwi Farms. And what's interesting is I'm be able to note that this is just null. This is just the notes for null. So I've been working on the tier list, okay? Don't get it twisted. Everybody's up right now. Everybody's up right now. Null's up right now. Boss Man's up right now. Sean from Potentially Criminal's up right now. Everybody I care about is up right now. Hopefully, Lifeguard Herman is doing well. He was in the hospital for a little bit. Hopefully he's doing well. Much love. Everybody's up right now. So I ain't got to worry about it. Everybody's cool and everybody's chill. Everybody's comfortable. I'm cooking. Let me cook a little bit more. No, I want to make it fun. I want to make it funny. I want to make it interesting. What I want. Anxiety can be a valuable currency, and depression can be a soothing balm with which to treat an active mind. Keep that in mind. The best thing that Elon Musk will ever do is what he already did, destroying the co-ed social media website where people fought all the time. By co-ed, I don't mean men and women. I mean far left and far right. Far left stuck on the internet because they're weirdos and they were moderated out of any physical community that they were in. Far right stuck on the internet because they're complete and utter weirdos and they were moderated out of any physical community that they were in. They were both stuck together on Twitter. They would fight all the time. In their fighting, they went lower and lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. And I do genuinely believe that Jack Dorsey is physically, personally responsible for both showing young children ISIS beheading videos, young children pornography, as well as having this race to the bottom mentality going on deliberately. I do believe that Jack Dorsey is deliberately responsible for that. So that is the best thing that Elon Musk will ever do, because he's not going to do anything like create immortality or manage to create like a viable and profitable venture anywhere on Earth or in space. There are so many people who bear meaningless scars of their lower and lower conflicts on Twitter. And I have the distinct feeling that now that left is on Blue Sky, right is on Twitter, that problem's solved. We can kind of get along when we're not actively fighting every day and creating grudges. However, injecting a fantasy AI personality right into the code of a social media website is a horrible trend. Negative points to Elon for that one. But following up on Facebook, you know, guy I respect a little bit more, guy that I thought had a good head on his shoulders, did the exact same thing. And it's kind of like when Elon normalized super bright LED headlamps. We all suffer. However, I'm not going to let Elon be the individual sin eater for everything bad that other people do in his wake. Yeah, he's the door opener. Yeah, he's the excuse. I'm still paying attention to you, buddy. I think God's gonna too. I'm just saying, you know. I get my specific viewpoints from having died and come back to life. That's when I reformed my personality and my intellect. And, you know, you can trust me or you don't have to trust me, but if what I say is true, then it's true. Yeah, I'm convinced Gen X was a fine generation until Breaking Bad came out. And then it went spiraling down. It went tumbling. No love for you, meth heads. Sorry. You guys are gross. All right, y'all. Cheers.